All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another virtual art club. Today's theme is the one with portfolio reviews. And tonight I have my guest speaker is Candace Masters, who's the chair of the art ed department at Buffalo State College. And so she's going to talk to us all about portfolio reviews and how to prepare one while you're in high school for college. So Candace, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm actually chair of art and design. So yeah, that's okay. Art education is a part of that, but we do have 16 different programs under art and design. So we have a lot of programs to offer. So I can give you some information on all of those.
Great. All right, so I'm going to get started with our questions. So first and foremost, what is a art portfolio for those who might not know yet what that is and if they see that on a college application?
Sure. So a portfolio is an opportunity to represent the kind of work that you've been doing typically in high school, so that, the professors can see where you are, what your interests are, what your skill level is. It's kind of it's just a way to get to know you. At Buffalo State, actually, most of the art and design programs don't require a portfolio. Art education is one that does. But an important thing about a portfolio is to look carefully at the college website and see what their particular guidelines are, because they can be different depending on what school and what specific art discipline you're interested in. Most of them are going to want to see some drawing, want to see some observational drawing, want to know that you have some skill, basic skills in rendering things and an understanding of two-dimensional space and that sort of thing, color, but they can be pretty individualized. So it's a good idea to make sure you look on the college website and see what their expectations are.
Yeah, I feel like just like an application to a college is so different. The portfolios are just as unique for every college. So when should you start developing your portfolio, and what year is a good time to start thinking about starting one?
You can start thinking about it even your freshman year, though it's okay if you haven't thought about it yet that soon. But the more artwork you have, the more selective you can be in what you put in it and what you include in it. Most places are looking for potential, so it shouldn't be, don't be too stressed out about it, right? But you also want to represent yourself as best as you can. You want to demonstrate that you have some dedication, right, to art. You want to that you're putting in time, that you're putting in effort, that you have an interest in it, that excites you, that you're passionate about it, and all those things can be reflected in your work. So if it's your sophomore, junior year, even senior year, and you haven't done that yet, you still have time. And I would recommend that even if you take an AP portfolio class or a portfolio class in school, to do things outside of school, because that would set your portfolio apart from your peers. Because if everybody just has the artwork that they did in their AP portfolio class, right, you have kind of a lot of cookie cutter portfolios, but you want yours to sort of represent you. So I would, put in some representation of things that you do on your own that you're interested in as well.
That's a really good, that's really great advice, to do things. And it doesn't need to be even attending like another workshop outside of school. It could just be, maybe you really enjoy going on a walk and sketching what you see outside or something.
Absolutely. And then that shows the person looking at it that you're interested in being an artist. You're not just doing assignments for school.
Right. So you talked about being selective. So if you start earlier, you have a lot to choose from. So when do you know you have something worthy to add to your portfolio?
That's a good question. I think if you feel proud of something, then I think it's likely worthy. And again, it's going to depend on the specific school. But you're going to have, if you do something in school, you might have an art teacher tell you this should go in your portfolio. Oh, that's great, that should go in portfolio. So that's kind of a no-brainer, right, to do that. Yeah. But generally, if you feel pretty good about it, then your gut reaction is probably correct. Not everything that you make that year, and I'm a mom, so I know this, not everything that I love necessarily would be that my daughter does might necessarily be portfolio worthy, but that's because I love everything she does. And your folks might feel the same way, but your own gut can be lied.
Yeah, if you feel it's right, that's a good advice. And it also gives you, it lends to a more personal touch in your portfolio. So it doesn't look so like mechanical, that you have all of these techniques you're showing. It's personalized, which is good. So you did touch on a little bit of the range of works to show, but what specifically should students focus on when crafting their portfolio? So what types of technique in drawing or painting should they be focusing on to showcase?
Again, some of that question could be dependent upon the program and the school.
Sure. If it's a specialty they're applying to. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I would, for an example, I would, for art education specifically at Buffalo State, we kind of look for breadth and depth, because the people are going to be art teachers. And as an art teacher, you have to be teaching several different kinds of materials. So it would be nice for an art ed student, we like to see the drawings, yes, maybe some painting, maybe some digital work, maybe something 3D. And again, it's not necessarily to judge the work. It's more to show a dedication to what we call breadth and depth. So that means a few different things that you've tried, but then some depth, that means a higher level of skill in something. So a lot of times in high school, that would be drawing. Now, a lot of other more technically based programs are going to really focus on that drawing. And so observational drawing, and that means looking at objects in real space, right? Not just copying. And it's not that it's a bad thing to do sometimes, to copy if you like manga or whatever, those things are good. But they want to see that you have a handle on representing something 3-dimensional on a 2-dimensional space. And so those are all those things that you're learning in the upper level drawing classes, or when you're doing observational drawing, which means drawing things from life, right? So that you can show that you have an understanding of line and form and shape and color and value and those kinds of things.
Yeah. And I feel like when you start getting into those very specific degree programs, that's where, if you already know a focus that you're really interested in, that's like a good look at what the classes you would be taking in college. I feel like is a good way to start like your interest in high school and like things you should try.
That's actually a great idea, Michaela. Yeah. If you're going for something like gaming or 3D animation, then there's also the notion of what's called narrative art, or art that tells a story. Like they may like to see that, and that also the focus may not be as much on observational drawing as it is on ideation. In other words, like what are the ideas behind your work? And even in art education and some of the other programs, we have we value students that also think about ideas in their work. So yes, how can I draw, but also like, does it have a meaning? Have you explored symbolism? Do you is it something personal to you? Can you talk about it a little bit about it?
Yeah, that higher level really helps develop that. One of the colleges I applied to when I was going to art school was an illustration program. And so they wanted to really see at least 5 or 6 pieces that told a story in an illustration. They wanted to see kind of like this mid-action drawing illustration that kind of captured a moment of a story. So that was something that I had to develop for my portfolio. When I saw the requirements, I thought, okay, I need to start working on that.
Yeah, and that's great. And that's exactly what you do. It's hard for me to say just a generic portfolio anymore, because there are so many different types of visual arts, encompasses so many different things. And so it really is important, if you want to get into a school, particularly a school that's really selective, to find out, like you said, what would be the classes you'd be taking? What kind of things are they studying? Is color going to be really important? You want to make sure, do you need to have something that shows that you have a handle on some basic color theory, things like that? Yeah.
So when you're looking for work, what are you looking for in a student's work when you're receiving their portfolios?
Well, I can only speak to art education.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
The other fine arts programs, don't require them, though you can. So like drawing and painting, for example, they don't at Buffalo State specifically, they don't require it, but they love to see it because it just kind of gives them an idea of where you are. And you can say, oh, this student has these strengths, or these are things I can help this student work on. So something like that. But for art education, like I mentioned, what we kind of look for is drawing, yes, but a little bit of breadth. So a little bit of other kinds of things besides just drawing, what other, have you done anything 3D? Have you done anything with fibers, for example, or again, anything digitally, painting, a little bit of painting, because every art teacher is going to do some kind of painting, right? Could be abstract, could be, and then we definitely value ideation. So in art ed, we definitely value students that can start to think about what does their work mean, and work that's personal to them, because we want them to be able to teach students about that. And again, it's just to look, really, it's to look for potential. It's really not, it's not a high stakes kind of thing. It's like, we want to get to know who you are. We want to see that you have potential to learn, and that you have some dedication and some demonstrated dedication. So it's not as if you don't have to be Michelangelo at this point. You come to college to learn, right?
Yeah.
We want to see that you have that you're excited and interested in it and want to continue on with it.
You mentioned you're not judging the work, and I think that's such a crucial point. I wish I heard when I was in high school, because when you go to these portfolio review days that some colleges hold, and you're showcasing, you're carrying around your giant folder of all your work to all these tables, it does feel high stakes, and it does feel like your stuff's being judged. So it is good that you can just focus away from that and think about you are just this is your potential you're showing to go to college at this school you want to go to. So
absolutely, yeah, and that can be scary. I've been to those portfolio days too on the other side of the table, and those can be scary. And that's not really, again, I can't speak to every art school, but the majority of them are looking for potential. Yeah. So it isn't something that should have to keep you up at night. If you're drawing all the time, and that's the reason, and you're creating art, or you're going to art museums, or you're looking up art online, and that's interesting and exciting to you, then that would be reflected in the work that you're doing. It doesn't have to, we're not looking for, perfection or something like that.
Yeah. Going back to, that extra thing you could add to your portfolio, are sketchbook something that you could showcase in a portfolio to show your dedication?
Sure. Yeah, I think so. I mean, you could have sketchbook pages, or it depends on the extent of your sketchbook, but again, anything I think that demonstrates your dedication, interest, and passion into what you want to do can be helpful. Yeah.
And so what's the review process like? So when you're if you're at a portfolio review day while you're in person, sometimes I guess nowadays they might even be virtual, but if you're getting a portfolio for the ed department at Buff State, how does that process look for you when you're looking at someone's work?
Yeah, so we accept them now only digitally. So what usually will happen is, and they would like to get guidelines. So then, because they have already done usually it's already done the application process just for the school to Buffalo State. So then I send a sheet that has pretty specific guidelines to the person, and they just email me back a PowerPoint or Google Slides or JPEGs, whatever form that they have. And typically what we would want is the person's name, the person's email, and also what specific program they're applying for, because even just in art education, which is one of the 16 programs in art and design, we have 3 different programs. So you would say, I'm applying, my name, I'm applying for the BFA in art education. Here's my contact information. And then you would have slides of your work. And you would organize them the way that you feel comfortable. And then I would look through them. It's usually me or Dr. Alice Panisi. And we then we don't give immediate feedback to the student because it's part of the application process. Then we would contact the grad school, and then the grad school, excuse me, would contact the student. Now, on occasion, once you're there, I've had students say, once they're at Buff State and during orientation and they first meet us, because there's only 3 of us in art ed, so it's pretty easy to find us. They want to have a little bit more depth to a review process, and we sit down and talk, and that's absolutely fine too. So at a student's request, or somebody who's interested, if you're interested in coming and you want to have a sit down where we actually look through your work and talk about it, we can do that as well. But typically it's a kind of hands off, any more digital process.
Mhm.
And there's a sheet that I fill out, but it doesn't really, unless there's any issues, the student wouldn't get that till they're already in the program, because it's meant to be to see potential. So
Mhm.
if somebody were really in need of something, I would email them back and say, hey, do you have any, I really liked your drawings, but you only included 3 drawings. Do you have anything else you can show me? I wouldn't just say no. I would coax that person and say, Yeah.
That's nice. That's great. So when someone's preparing their portfolio and they're trying to be selective, is it better to show quantity or quality in that when they're being selective? So do you want to see more work or fewer works that are better?
That's a tricky question for art education, because like I say, we kind of like that breadth and depth.
Yeah.
But if you have 20 things and there's 3 that you feel kind of like, I don't know, I would usually say don't put those in. And if programs that are more technically based, then you want to go more for the quality over quantity. Yeah. Even once you're in college and you start to develop a portfolio for the professional world, it's usually recommended that 15 to 20 images max, and that's for a professional artist.
Right. Is having a theme or a link through your art in your portfolio helpful to an interviewer like you when you're looking at a portfolio?
It can be. It doesn't have to have that, but it can be, because again, it demonstrates that there's an idea behind it, that the student is thinking about the meaning and the conceptual side of their work, and that's something that we value. So it's not a bad thing.
Okay. What's any other advice you'd give a high school student right now that's preparing a portfolio? Something we haven't mentioned, maybe.
Yeah. Again, I would say don't make it be like a stress, but make it be a demonstration of your dedication to what it is that you want to do. You want to pursue art for a reason, I'm guessing, right? So don't allow like being stressed out over how good your portfolio is, for example, to petrify you, or because it's easy to say, I'm too afraid to do this, so it's actually keeping me from doing the work. Don't think about it like that. It's not a test. It's not a test, but we get a lot of them, as do other schools. And again, what we really look for is we want somebody that's excited about it and wants to come, more so than maybe someone has 2 drawings that are fabulously, have great proportion and, or something. But I would rather have someone that has 10, but really shows through their work that this is something they want to do and they're excited about and they want to learn. Yeah. So I think that would be my biggest piece of advice. Think about the long haul, the bigger picture, and it's not like a final exam or something.
Yeah. It's supposed to be fun to develop your portfolio.
Yeah. It's supposed to say, hey, look, I really want to come to your school and become
look how much I care.
Yes, exactly.
To get more technical, so when you're preparing, even for sending a digital portfolio to you at Buffalo State College, what are some tips and tricks for photographing your artwork? So you're not actually showing it right there in person. You have to send it digitally. So what do you recommend, or what do you like to see in photographs of artwork?
Well, I'll give a trick that's pretty low tech. If you use your phone or something like that, but you just do it outside on an overcast day, you'll have much better results than if you try to light stuff in your house or stand over it and then there's your shadow. I'm just saying these because I see a lot of, these are the things
Yeah.
I see a lot of, where
Yeah.
there's some shadow. But taking something outside when you can on an overcast day is really easy when you have your, if you have like, you have your phone. And the other is to crop things, you know, so that there's not the distraction. A lot of times people just take a picture of their drawing or something and there's all this stuff behind it.
Yeah.
From their house or their room. You know, if you're taking it on your phone, it's easy to crop, and you guys know how to do that. Right.
Right. Hopefully.
I know how to do that in a way that we never had when we were young. That stuff's easy. So, and then, you know, and then just watch stuff being too dark, because sometimes especially like pencil drawings and things like that they're dark and then we can't really see the drawing very well. But honestly, cell phones and iPads and tablets and things of that nature are fine for photographing artwork, as long as you
Yeah, don't have your messy bedroom in the background.
right. Yeah.
And like a phone shadow in the middle of your work. Yeah.
A dark shadow of your head, like,
Yeah.
you know, over. Then I'm going, is that a part of the drawing or is that a shadow?
So you talked a little bit about some of the programs. So besides the art ed program at Buffalo State College, what are all the other art programs that we offer?
So we have fine art, which encompasses multiple areas: drawing, painting, sculpture, photography, and art history, and printmaking. Then we have design programs, which include ceramics. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice all week. Ceramics, wood furniture design, fiber art. I should have had it in front of me. Metals, jewelry, and what we call the Tech Hub, which is a new program that has 3D printing, laser cutting, and digital fabrication. Then we have a graphic design program. And then we have interior design.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I didn't even realize there were so many art programs.
Yes, it's huge. It's huge. We have a huge building with over 42 studios and 5 floors of awesomeness. And it's great if you would come to visit and see. We have 2 art galleries, the Searles Nelson Gallery and a student-run gallery run by what's called the Visual Arts Board, which is a student-run group that oversees that gallery and also does all kinds of cool activities. And you know, it's a club for students. I feel like I know I'm missing something, but we have a lot.
That's a lot, yeah.
If you think about some kind of arts, we probably have it.
Wow.
Visual arts, we probably have it, yes. And most of those have the option of a BFA, which is a Bachelor of Fine Arts. That's the more professional degree, has a few more credit hours in studio courses. And then we have the Bachelor of Arts, which is a BA. It's a bit more generalized, where you can mix and match a lot of different studio experiences.
Wow. I hearing all of those, that there's a lot that's offered. I had no idea there was wood furniture building.
Yeah.
Design. That's very cool. And the new tech hub sounds very, very cool. So is there any, and maybe this is too specific about the application to Buff State, but is there any specific criteria that Buff State asks for when they apply to an art program?
No, just the portfolio for art education.
Okay. And then where can students learn more about all of the art programs at Buffalo State?
I wasn't sure. I have the website pulled up, but I wasn't sure if I'm able to share since I'm not the host.
Let me actually. You should be able to share now.
Okay. Can you see that? Did I lose people?
It says Candace has started sharing screen.
Yikes.
Could just be on a delay.
Oh, okay. When I shared, it lost everybody, so I just stopped sharing. You think it's
Oh,
just
you'll see your screen, but we're still here.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Try
I
again.
didn't hear anything, so then I got nervous.
Yep. Perfect. Yep, I'm seeing it.
Okay, so the best way to learn about us is to go to our website here at artdesign.buffalostate.edu. We're also on Facebook and Instagram, and it's a fun website to just explore because we do have so many programs, and there are a lot of slideshows of student artwork that kind of play in the background here as it's going on now. So there's nice painting from one of the painting classes, and here's a ring from our jewelry design classes, and then you can click on programs, and here's our programs, and then within each of these programs you can click on it. This would be a BA in art, and it'll tell you about that specific program. You can see there's drop down under here. Here's our information, and here's a link excuse me, specifically about portfolios. And share the guidelines are right there, but I will also send them to you if you apply. And there's all of our art education programs. Let's go back to programs because there's lots. Cool. And here they are over on your left. So we have the graphic design, interior. Oh, and did I say it? Did I forget interior design? If I did, that's sorry. So interior design is another that we have that is a really great program. It's not the type of program where you're learning to pick out curtains. It's like an interior designer that works with an architect.
Oh, very cool.
Excuse me, I need to grab a cough drop. Oh, sure. I've been sick all week and I don't have COVID. I had the test. Just some other random normal cold that I go into these coughing fits. So as you can see, we have quite a comprehensive group of programs. I'm a busy person.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yeah. But each of them here has examples of student work, and it'll tell you all about them.
Very cool.
Information, and you can call or email about that as well. And I would even I can give you my email if you want.
Sure, throw it into the chat, and I will also, when this is up on our website, I will be adding a link to this webpage, a link to the portfolio, and then some other information as well. So they'll find this on our website too. Okay. With this video.
I'll get out of there. I'll put my, because even if I can always send, if you email me, I can send you to the right person who can give you
great
the specific information about that program. And they are very happy to hear from people and happy to answer your questions, the faculty. So please don't be shy. If I can't answer it, like I say, I'll send you to the person, to the program coordinator of that area, and they'd be happy to talk to you. Or if you're just interested in art in general, that we have a BA in art. If you just love art, but you don't know what you want to do yet, you don't have to know. You can, and you don't have to have a portfolio for that program. And a lot of people start in the BA in art, and then by their sophomore year, because they've taken different studios to try out, introductory studios, they fall in love with jewelry making, or they fall in love with wood furniture design, or they fall in love with fiber arts that they never even thought of. And they're on their way to having a career in a visual art form they didn't even know existed.
That's such an awesome resource that you could just, kind of play around a little bit before you really jump into a specialty.
Absolutely.
So I wrote down, this is something that they'll find on the website as well that I'll have written up. But I wanted to kind of break down tips on making a fabulous portfolio. So I have just a few, I have like seven tips that have I've written down. So number one is show your drawing skills. So the most important factor, like we've talked about tonight, is that most colleges are going to see that you have excellent observational skills. So that would be the first thing to think about when you're developing your portfolio. So draw from life. Don't go to Pinterest and search, whatever you want to draw and then draw it from there. Like go outside or find something in your house. and then draw that in your sketchbooks. 2 would be express your creativity. So make it personalized, make it for you. It's supposed to be fun. This is your art and the work you do. So being creative does also require courage. You have to be, courageous enough to break out of your shell if you're a shyer person, and really express yourself, which is, sometimes that's harder for people to do. But it really will show in your artwork, especially when other people see it. They can tell when you're being genuine and being yourself. So a way to do that is to keep a sketchbook. I was always instilled when I went to high school, 10 years ago. my professor or my teacher would always make us turn in sketchbooks 2 times a week to show that we were keeping up on our books, and we'd have to turn them in for a grade to show that we actually, were doing them. So keep one that's regular. You can write in them. You don't have to just draw. I mean, if you look at some of the artwork we have in the museum, especially Charles Burchfield's work, he didn't just sketch all the time. He was drawing constantly, but a lot of the sketches we show up currently in the show we have now, the drawings of Charles E. Burchfield, he sketches, and he'll have notes and comments, and even thoughts and ideas of paintings he wants to do. So he'll say something about clouds and the color they are in his sketch for them. And then you'll see that in his painting later when you see it in person. Number 3 was explore a range of mediums. So even for the art ed department at Buffalo State, you want to see that your students can show, a wide breadth of knowledge. So don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to explore. I mean, you're in high school, so the world is your oyster. You have a ton of time to work in many different mediums. So just anything you can get your hands on now, just try it out and see if you like it. And if you don't, you know for next time. So number 4 is art and design fundamentals. So I think a lot of colleges want to understand that you have a good understanding of the basics. So that would be when you're showing a sketch or even a drawing, don't be afraid to show those working lines that you use when you're building a form, because that will really show the professors looking at your work that you understand the structural elements underneath the form that you're drawing. And that process will show them your dedication to learning more about that, the object you're rendering. So number 5 is make your sketchbook exciting for you. So don't make it exciting for as an art object. I feel like that's where I personally fail a lot when keeping a sketchbook, as I try and make it as an art object. And it really should just be, this is where I like to go to draw, and it doesn't need to be perfect. So it's not homework. I know some teachers might make it homework like mine did, but it doesn't need to be homework. And then it should just be, it kind of be like a diary. And I'll just take it right back to what I said before about sketchbooks and Charles Burchfield, is that he journaled and he sketched all the time. And so he's a great resource that we have on our website if you want to see more of his stuff and how he worked. He literally kept a visual diary every day of his life. And so that's I feel like a good, resource to look at as a person who kept, extensive notes and sketchbooks. So 6 would be clear labeling. So we didn't talk about this for the portfolio when you're developing your portfolio, but just like taking a good photograph where you don't have a busy background, and you can clearly see your work. I think depending on how you lay out your portfolio, if you do it in a PDF or if you do it in a PowerPoint, have clear labeling that is consistent. So take that into consideration, that Candace is looking through hundreds of portfolios all the time. And so if you have clear information, clear labeling that has the same font, same size, it's laid out in the same way, they can easily go through your checklist of items and they don't have to keep digging to understand, okay, was that the title or was that, something else? And then it'll help them take in your story and understand your work even better. So again, make your labeling consistent. Go ahead.
Yeah, can I add to the labeling? I'm glad, I completely forgot. And so I'm glad you mentioned about that. Yeah. It's also helpful if you put the dimensions, the scale, yes, because it's a lot. Like sometimes I don't know on a painting, for example, if it's this big or if it's 8 feet. Occasionally have right. a student that worked on a mural inside the school wall or something. So right. It makes the work, it really impacts the work, the scale, what size it is. So it is helpful, and nobody's checking or measuring if you don't have it exact. But again, if it's matchbook size versus if it's wall sized, that's helpful to know.
Yeah, that's a great note. Exactly. And one way, if you want some really good formatting for a label for your artwork, look at a museum and see the kind of labels that are next to the artworks on the wall. You'll see how they format it, and that's kind of the same type of information you should put in your portfolio. So your name doesn't have, since they know that is your portfolio, you don't have to add that maybe to every single one, but definitely maybe a title if it's relevant, your medium you worked in, especially if it's a mixed media, mention the types that you used. That way they get a better understanding of that depth of knowledge, how much material you're using and what you're used to. And then, dimensions is huge. Yeah.
And actually giving a title is nice because it does show us that you're thinking about ideas, that you're thinking about perhaps the work having meaning, and a title can give us a clue to that. So if everything's untitled, versus you're giving us a little clue that you're thinking about something while you've created this, or this drawing or this painting or this sculpture is about something. So that's helpful.
Yeah. So number 7, my last tip to making your fabulous portfolio, choose your art pieces. So I'll break this down into 4 different ways to interpret this. So it helps to have a range of artwork that's done so that you have a selection to choose from. And when you're choosing your works, you can kind of curate it so that you see what works well together. And you can display, you don't have to display everything that you've worked on in your high school career, but an easy way to make those decisions is maybe in your home or at your school, physically laying out all your work, and that way you can see it all at once and pick and choose which ones you feel work best together and really show it. Because I feel like if you're always shuffling through individual artworks, you might not see it, the big picture, until it's all laid out in front of you. So again, showing that variety of mediums that you've worked in and different topics and subject matters. Having a theme or a link between your artwork. You don't always need that, but if that is something you're interested in, especially if you're going for a specialty art program, some schools might want you to tell a story, and having that kind of theme could be really beneficial, but that's always very specific to the type of school you're going to. And then just reiterating, stand back and look at your artwork, just like you do when you're working on it. You take a few steps back and you see it, you're not up close to it and you kind of miss what's happening everywhere else. Just take a look at everything that you've worked on, and that you'll understand eventually what works best for your portfolio. So those are my tips and tricks to making your portfolio great. I'm going to have those written on the website too, so when you view this video, they'll see it when they scroll down on the video. I do see we have one participant in our webinar, so welcome. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free in the next minute or 2 to comment, because that wrapped up our questions that I had for Candace. So thank you.
You're welcome. I do want to say real quick, I'm glad you talked about courage, because that's, that is true. So I think that's what I was trying to get at when I was saying, don't let it be a stressor, but be brave and to show your work. I think it's Matisse that said creativity takes courage, and it does.
All right, so on our website, you'll be able to find Candace's email and a link to the Buffalo State College Art and Design webpage. So you'll see all of the different programs that Buff State has to offer. And then if you have any questions about a particular program or getting your portfolio through, Candace is eager to help. All right, so that wraps up our virtual art club for October. The one with portfolio reviews. So join me next month on November 18th, same time at 6:30 on Zoom. It'll be the one with creative blocks. And I have 3 amazing artists joining me. I have Chanel Kirkus, Frederick Wright Jones, and Chantel Collado joining me to talk about how they overcome creative blocks and how they work through their art process when this happens. So that'll be a really exciting talk with them. All right. Thank you again, Candace, for
Welcome. My
being here
pleasure.
tonight.
My pleasure. I hope to see and hear from people.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Good night.
Night. Thank you.